Nearly 20 years ago, Euronews launched as a video news service. Today, under its new CEO, Euronews is poised to lead the digital revolution in the way people consume news. And joining us today on INSEAD Knowledge is that new CEO himself. Michael Peters, welcome to INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you.
How has the Euronews mission evolved since you joined? You've increased viewers, you have a new format. How has the vision changed?
We are all in our industry facing a big revolution. And we are in an obligation today to adapt ourselves and to adapt our products. So of course, I think that just to summarize all of that, Euronews was a TV channel, and Euronews won't be anymore a TV channel in the future.
So what will it be?
It will be a kind of general hub of information, a kind of umbrella editorial brand with not only a marketing aspect, but equally editorial values in which you will trust or not, you will adhere or not. And this umbrella brand will be part of any new way of consumption, any new platforms with screens, without screens, and the consumer will have the possibility to consume this brand in the editorial sense or not.
Let's do a little recap here. You have now 7.5 million viewers. Is that right?
Yeah. So the estimation of the total and exact number of viewers of Euronews is quite hard to get because we are broadcasting in a lot of countries where the audience measurements are not completely exact. So we don't know exactly how many. What we know is that we have effectively at least 7.5 millions. These 7.5 millions are, let's say, controlled by an external company, consulting company. And based on these real figures, we estimate that the figure is more around 10 million per day in all continental Europe.
And 350 million households?
Absolutely.
Okay, and 12 languages, 35 satellites?
Yeah.
I mean, your reach is very, very broad, including places that I guess a lot of broadcasters wouldn't much care about, like the Ukraine and places like that. But they're an important part of news consumption. Absolutely.
I mean, this part of there are a lot of parts of the world who are a little bit along the road for the time being, which are extremely important for us. And effectively, East Europe is very important. Central Asia is very important. Central Europe is very important for us. And I think that Euronews is a true continental European actor. And we believe in Europe in the general way, like people were saying from Atlantic to Ural, and maybe even from Atlantic to Afghanistan now. We could equally think about that. And Euronews is a really continental European believer in its DNA.
Who are the shareholders or the owners?
So we have 21 shareholders. It's a huge amount. And all of them are public broadcasters in all the continental Europe, and even I would say North Africa. So it goes from Portugal up to Ukraine, Russia, and even when you go back to the other side of the Mediterranean Sea, you have even Egyptian television, Tunisian, Moroccan, which is a big shareholder of Euronews.
Well, then what's the relationship to Eurovision? Because that's kind of a news feed that they all share. Is this the output of Eurovision that you've been putting on to Euronews?
Yeah, Euronews is a baby of Eurovision, like Eurosport, by the way. In 1981, first Gulf War and explosion of CNN everywhere. I mean, in Europe, not in US, but in Europe. And all the European states say to themselves, oh, we have a problem. The American perspective is coming in Europe, and we need to counterbalance that. So they say we need to find a news channel to counterbalance CNN in Europe. And they found with EBU, EBU, they found EBU as a logical partner for that. So EBU created Euronews. I mean, part of EBU created Euronews. EBU is regrouping 55 national televisions all over Europe, and amongst those, 10 have been in the first, let's say, adventure of Euronews, and 11 others joins them, and all our shareholders today are EBU members.
Now, there was EBU, the European Broadcast Union, that had Eurovision. Then there was also an Eastern European under the communist times that had I guess the SharePoint was in Vienna, where they all had outlets. Are those people who were sharing through Vienna now part of Euronews? Have you incorporated the East Bloc into Euronews?
Yeah, these East countries are very important members of EBU today, yes, we have Russia with our third shareholder, so it's a very important shareholder, and the Ukrainian television equally joined Euronews a few years ago, and we have today Russian and Ukrainian version of Euronews. So yes, these East European countries are extremely important for us. We have established a new dimension plan where we have opened some offices everywhere in the world. We have begun with Brussels, where we have a very big newsroom. We have the biggest international newsroom in Brussels. We have nearly 20 people working there. And now we are setting up offices a little bit everywhere in the world to get our own pictures with our own correspondents. We opened offices in Cairo, in Dubai, in Doha, in London, in Paris. We will open one in Washington in a few times, and a lot of others. We understood one thing, is that what we can do, the other cannot do it. Let's take an example. If we are opening an office, what we did in Istanbul, if one of our competitors is opening such an office in Istanbul, like CNN, CNBC, BBC World News, they will put an American person or an English person, and it will be an English or American point of view for CNN about this region. For us, we have the extraordinary chance to be able to put in Istanbul logically Turkish correspondents, part of our Turkish edition, because we have 11 editions today. Or even, why not, like we did in Paris, we have put an Italian journalist with the correspondent in Paris today. And we think that it gives us a richness of point of views, of perspectives that the other cannot have. And we really think that this can bring something new in the TV media landscape.
Finally, a counterbalance to the Anglo-Saxon point of view internationally.
I take it as a big compliment, as it was our initial mission.
Okay. Where do you get the money to do all this? What's your business model? Is it the 21 stakeholders, or advertising, or? Yeah, so
at the beginning of Euronews, the revenue were coming mainly from our shareholders. It was representing something like more than half of all the revenue. And today, this has totally changed. So we need to be auto-sufficient, financially speaking. And today, the main revenues are coming from effectively advertising. Distribution too, the money that the operators, cable and satellite operators are paying to us to take Euronews on their own offers.
What do you figure so far? Because I've in doing some reading about where you stand today, it looks as though you're exploring a lot of these platforms and radio and other things, so there must be revenue streams that you see. Maybe nobody knows really what's out there. We can all just take a guess and start down that path.
The thing is to be able to be there, to build and to give a strongness to our brands in these environments, and then to work on an advertising model. The problem with news is that news is not on a pay model. I mean, movies, children content, adult content are all based on a pay model. For us, we are not there, and I don't see how we can change that. Once you consume news on a free basis, I don't know if you will accept to pay for that in the future. We think that the future is to have the right content at the right place at the right time, which means that to go back to your first question, we think that Euronews will become a kind of big umbrella, editorial umbrella, with editorial value, and will have to be placed in any platforms with specific formats. We think that the formats should not be the same for the users who will want to consume news with interactivity, for users that will want to consume short formats, for users that will want to consume long formats, depending on their environments, etc. And the idea that we are trying to set up in place right now is to adapt not the contents, the formats of our contents to the right platform for the right usage at the right time of the day.
So you really have to understand more the way in which, first of all, who the news consumer is and where he's consuming it. I mean, somebody who's looking at it with an app is probably a news junkie, where somebody who's looking at it in YouTube is more like a news tourist. I mean, it's a little different than that. So
you're absolutely right. The key word today is user experience. And I mean, this keyword is the base of the business of Facebook, of Google, so I didn't invent it, I mean, of course. But I think that user experience, what happens on Google and Facebook must happen to us now. I think that, again, it depends about how you want to consume news. I think that it depends about the time of the day, it depends about where you are, it depends about in which physical position you are as regard to your screen, if you are, on your sofa, if you are in a bus, standing. And I think that depending on this time or these different ways of consuming media, you don't expect the same things. In one case, you will expect rapidity first, and you don't care about analysis. And look what happens with now all the push alerts on your mobile phone. You cannot live without that anymore. And sometimes, alerts is who is the first who give the information, even if the information is not very correct. But then I think that if you go too much on that, with the time you will lose your credibility. So what is extremely hard today is doing both. Is being able to deliver first the news or very quickly, and in the meantime to accommodate some other time in your antenna to give more analysis, etc., and to be able to satisfy both ways of consumptions.
You're probably not the only news executive to be saying these words. So who is your competition? Who do you worry about out there?
So our main competitors are CNN and BBC. CNN International, not CNN US, of course, and BBC World News. We are competing with them since so many years. We have a lot of respect for them, and of course, then there have been newcomers like Al Jazeera, who is a big player now, and a lot of national newcomers like Russia Today, Deutsche Welle, France 24, Rai News 24, etc. So, but I would say that today, in terms of audience, which is a criteria for us, so we have, when we spoke to just at the beginning of the interview about around 10 million viewers, or between 7 and 10 million viewers every day in Europe, it seems that CNN is more around 2 million and BBC World News about 1 million. So we have one big competitive advantage with our competitors is the language, because we are able to speak to the Spanish people in Spanish, to the German people in German. So this is, of course, a big competitive advantage for us. We have signed today with manufacturers who are representing 95% of the TVs sold in the world. So we are very happy about that. Then, of course, we are working to be present on mobility. Mobility is a priority for all of us. So, of course, we are present on iTunes, Apple Store. We are present on Google Play, which we don't say anymore Android markets. And we are trying then to explore any other ways of consumption of news.
You're also cooperating and collaborating with some of the networks to create other programming. I mean, how will this work and what are you actually doing?
We are trying to make some tailor-made products like haute couture. And we hear the clients and we try to then set up a program that goes in the way to associate its brands with a theme. So it can be cooking for an advertiser who is, I don't know, based on the car industry. I don't know why, because if he wants to speak about gastronomy, I don't know, but just trying to find things which are a little bit indirect, but to position his brand. Once the theme has been chosen with the clients, then of course we are producing the program entirely independently.
And that's going back to the early days of television when you had big sponsors like Kraft Music Hall and you had a whole musical series and Kraft was
Yeah, you're right.
It's
you're
interesting. Okay, let me end by asking you your vision for Euronews maybe in the next 3 to 5 years.
First of all, I hope I will always be present in the field in 5 years. We have one unique model for the time being, which is that everything is coming from the newsroom. There is only one newsroom. as compared to our competitors who have a lot a TV newsroom and a web newsroom. For us, everything is coming from the same journalist. And the idea is really to have the newsroom in the heart of everything and to be able, with this new workflow and new building, to be able to answer to what we think is the future, is to have the right content at the right place at the right time.
Michael Peters, thank you very much for being with us on INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you, too.